And folks, if you're looking for a great show, you're saying, I don't know what show to listen to. Stop listening to Fox News and start listening to Patriot Strong Podcast. Stop listening to fake media and Newsweek and Newsmax and start listening to the Patriot Strong Podcast. Make it your daily mission to listen to this podcast and share it with your friends. Thank you so much, Courtney. Have a great day.
Hi, friends. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to the Patriot Strong podcast today. I'm so thrilled for our guest interview today. You guys have all heard of this company. They were major headlines, a few different events over the last few years, and I'm so, so grateful that I've had the opportunity to sit down with tonight's guest, Miss Heather Wilson, wife, mother of 6, and co-founder of GiveSendGo.com. Heather, thank you so, so much for your time and for joining the Patriot Strong podcast today.
Hi, Courtney. Thanks for having me.
For those of you that are tuning in for the first time, please give the show a like, follow, subscribe if you're listening to this on one of the streaming platforms, and leave some comments down below. Maybe we can get to them during our show today. Heather, again, thank you so much for your time. I know you are super busy, so I'm grateful that you have the time to spare it for me. Can you share with our listeners who you are and a little bit about your background?
Sure. So my name's Heather Wilson, and as you said, I am a co-founder of GiveSendGo.com. My brother, a sister, and I started GiveSendGo. Just this year, it'll be 10 years. Time flies when you're having fun, they say. I live in Maryland, and I am married for 26 years, and I have 6 children. One is my stepdaughter. I have 3 grandchildren with her and her family. I have a 25-year-old, 23, a 19, a 15-year-old adopted son, and a 10-year-old surprise daughter. And so life is busy and full. God has sent us on lots of different adventures. And it's really cool to be able to be a part of Give, Send, Go, raise a family, and do all the things that are important in this world.
You know, I love that you threw in that surprise. You know, it's always God's timing. I'm sure that she is just a gift and a wonderful, wonderful person. You mentioned 6 kids. So you obviously are, juggling all of these schedules, all of these different special little people. Now, I guess not little, you have some older children too. So what advice do you have for other moms who might be a mom of multiples or might be expecting or might have the age gap in their children? What is your best advice for them?
I think my advice would be to give yourself grace, first of all. You're not going to be a perfect parent, and you're not called to be a perfect parent. God has given you your kids, and you have a certain amount of time with them to love them and to teach them truth. And for me, the most important thing to teach my children was about God and God's love for them, and that He has a plan for them. And so I think that often, especially as a younger parent, so I was a younger parent, I was in my young 20s when I had my first, and then I was turning 40 when I had my last. And what I found with my last daughter is that I am not as concerned about what everybody says about me. And I think that often, especially as first-time parents, you want to do it well. It comes out of a good place, but then you start parenting not for your children's well-being, but because you care what other people are thinking about your parenting. And you can get off track real quickly because you react differently if you are like thinking about actually what your child's doing and the correction that's needed versus what you think someone thinks about what you're doing. And so don't care as much about what other people think about your parenting. Think about what God cares about your parenting. That, I guess, would be my wisdom, if there is any in there.
No, I love that message. And you mentioned really fast just that how important it was to teach your kids about God. And I love that so much. I think whenever we realize, and we're seeing a lot of it now, that God is being centered once again in, our daily life. We're seeing all these revivals at college campuses, and that's just so refreshing versus some of the other videos that we've seen of other students at these campuses. There's entire populations of children that are or young adults that are coming together as one, and they're baptizing each other, and they're praising and worshiping, and I really love that. I feel like the last 4 years, probably longer, has been just a spiritual battle, good versus evil, and people are waking up to realize what's really important in life, and centering your life around God is definitely one of them. So
Yeah, I just add on to that. I do agree that, like no other time that we've seen, anyways, like darkness is not just underneath anymore, it's seeping out into society. And so, as Christians, we can become a light, and people are attracted to that. We live in a society that feels hopeless. People have more depression and anxiety than ever before. And as Christians, we know the hope of the world. We have what is called the good news. And so often we don't share it. And even as a mom, watching your own kids get to a place where they have to decide what they're going to believe, it can be scary to let go. And because your kids, just because they grow up in a Christian home, doesn't mean that that's going to become their faith. And so watching my children find God on their own, not just because they had to go to church because I dragged them there, has been one of the most rewarding things of my life and if you're watching and your children aren't following the Lord right now, and you're like, that is a burden, I can tell you, I have seen miracle after miracle in my own children's life. One child I had to actually send away. He was making such bad choices. We sent him to a disciplined school type of thing, because we're like, you're going to be on the side of the road, homeless one day, drug addict, because he was just going down the wrong road. And God got a hold of his heart. And I believe it was simply because of the prayers of my husband and myself, dedicatedly praying for our son. And he right now is a missionary, just got back from Nepal and loving Jesus. And so even though we see, it's kind of what you said, even though we see these college campuses rising up and some craziness going on, there is a revolution of people that God is drawing near to them. And it's going to be so attractive to the people looking for hope.
absolutely. It's so, so, so refreshing. Thank you for sharing that little bit about your son. There are probably a lot of people that are watching right now who were in the same boat or are in the same boat, feeling helpless and hopeless about, where their child is going to end up, or where their soul is going to end up, if they're kind of defensive about following Christ. But all it takes is patience and prayer. And I love that you shared that. Now, um, a little bit further into like your daily life, your personal self. What does a day look like for you? You are an extremely busy mom, a very successful entrepreneur, running a business. Being a mom, it surely isn't an easy task. So, what does a day look like, and how do you handle it? What is your piece to being able to juggle and balance both?
I think that so my day starts like most everybody else, especially if kids. You yell in the other room, it's time to get up, get ready, and they after a couple hollers, they get out of bed and start getting themselves ready. I do the same. My husband or I will. One of our daughters goes to a Christian school. One of our sons, the two that are home still, my son homeschools, and so the day just starts out with getting everybody ready to do what they need to do, getting the homeschooling curriculum ready and all of that, and getting our daughter to school. And then it's sitting down at my desk, and every day is a different adventure as far as what that looks like. When I get to my desk, we have about 40 something employees at Give Send Go that are all over the world. And so every day throws some new adventures our way. And a big part of my day is my relationship with God. I love to read. I'm not necessarily a TV watcher. I would rather read a book. And so I could find myself at the end of the day engulfed in some thriller novel or something, nothing, super spiritual. And I found myself reading so much. And I was like, you know what? if I can spend this much time reading some book that means nothing, and I really do love my relationship with the Lord and I want to grow with him and know him more, I should be able to spend time in the word as well. And so I've made it a point that on my Kindle, I have a Bible app, the Chronological Bible. And before I start reading any fun books, I do my Bible reading and I really dive into what is God saying to me that day. Often I'll go on social media, maybe do a live about what God spoke to me that day. And I've really enjoyed having that time. I can see that it makes a difference in my life now that I've made that a priority versus the, hey, I'm just going to go scroll or watch a show or things like that. But saying before I do any of those things, if I have time for those things, then I'm going to spend time first with the Lord.
I think that so many people want to have that connection or find that time, but they don't know where to start. So thank you for sharing that about your app. I feel like a lot of people, again, are trying to find time to read the Bible. More and more truth is coming out every day about a whole lot of stuff, and some of it is uncomfortable, but finding that peace, connecting with Jesus through his word, through the Bible, even if it is on the app, which, everything is so digital right now, everything is on your phone at your fingertips. So over the last year, like last year and even this year, there's Bible readings even on YouTube, and I like to listen to those like while I'm at work, just an audio version of reading through the Bible. And I find it's so interesting just how much of history kind of repeats itself. Whenever you read, you can kind of connect and see like how history has I don't know, like funneled over, I guess. But it's very, very important. I would encourage everybody to find the time to connect with, our Savior, and to read the Bible or listen to the Bible, get a better understanding. There are so many different um Bible studies, women's Bible studies, youth Bible studies. It's so, so, so important to do that, I think, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I laugh a little bit when you say, people have a hard time finding time. And I think that's probably the least of our worries because we waste so much time. And James just said daily Bible time is just essential, even for 5 minutes at a time. And that is so true. And we can, as a generation, spend hours. If we were to go into our phones and look at how much time we've spent doing nothing, playing Farmville or some video game or watching reels or whatever, we are the most time wasting generation of all times, I think. And we feel so busy. And so we try to convince ourselves that we're just so busy. Like our whole day is busy. But yet, if we were to really be honest with ourselves, how many times we pick up our phone without even paying attention, myself included, and start scrolling, and I'm on there for 20 minutes before I even realize that I'm like doing nothing. And so it's not a time problem we have. It's a priority. It's a priority problem. And I'm glad that was the word that I was looking for. So yeah, it's definitely a priority problem, and daily time with the Lord. And it doesn't have to be an hour at a time. Daily time talking to the Lord. Before I close my eyes every night, I lay in my bed. I usually am reading. So I'm reading, and then I just close my eyes before I fall asleep and I talk to the Lord. Because I'm like, I want to make sure that I am talking to him. Like he should be the most, if I believe everything that the Bible says about him, he should be the most important person that I talk to all day long.
No, absolutely. It's really just eye-opening once you make that connection, once you devote that time, how I think maybe just at peace, how much more at peace you feel, like, in your heart and in your soul. Like, even whenever you're stressed out or have, like, a crazy busy day, which I imagine you do all the time, um, once you make that connection, you can just kinda bring yourself back, take a deep breath, be still, know that I am the Lord, and, know that he is with you, and that in that moment of stress or anger or whatever, just have something to fall back on. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a whole verse about it in the Bible, many verses, but one that says, Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything with prayer and supplication, present your requests to God. And so it tells us, like, we live in a place where we feel anxious and there's so many things going on. Our days are busy and how are we going to fit it all in? I can feel that. And then we get stressed about things and all of those things. And the Bible actually says, don't be anxious about anything. And then it doesn't just tell us don't, like really try not to. It tells us what to do instead. It says, don't be anxious about anything, but instead with prayer and petition and supplication, present your requests to God. Tell God what your requests are. And then it tells us something that's even better than the peace of God that we won't even be able to understand, that transcends our understanding, will guard our hearts and our minds, because our hearts and our minds are the two things that go crazy. And during the day, when things get hard, our hearts go and we're like, oh, we're so sad, or our brains are going and we're anxious. But it says that if we present our requests to God, we're not going to be anxious and there will be a peace there. And so I can tell you that as a busy mom of 6 running a big company, that with a $300 million lawsuit, you might not know this, we have a $300 million lawsuit from the citizens of Ottawa over the trucker convoy a few years ago. And I don't lose sleep over it, because when I start to feel anxious, I present that to God and know that He cares about it even more than I do. And worrying about it isn't going to add a single day to my life, a minute of happiness to me. And so I really cling to that verse. And if you're listening in, do not be anxious. The Bible says it's possible to not be anxious, that we can present our prayers and requests to Him.
No, I love that we're kind of not only talking about you and your business, but shifting this to a Christian-based conversation that really warms my heart. I really think it makes conversation flow so much, because there's so much connection and the audience is connected, and we all just kind of have this home base that we are all connected to. But I did want to ask a question. You went from being a mom to starting a business, which is no easy feat at all. So can you tell me a little bit, or my audience a little bit, about how you and your siblings decided to do this and why?
Sure. So I'll start off just saying I have a high school diploma, so I don't have any degrees under my belt. I was a stay-at-home mom. I had 3 and then 4 little kids all at home, and was raising them. And they were just getting to an age where they're starting to go to school and a little easier. And I got a job just out in my community at a marketing company. And my siblings called me one day and they said, hey, we were around the table. Now I'm one of 12 siblings. So I have 6 brothers and 5 sisters. And they were talking around the table about this idea of crowdfunding. We'd seen sites like GoFundMe pop up. And we're like, what a cool idea. It kind of reminds me again of like the Bible, what it talks about in Acts, where people, when there was a need, everybody came together and gave. And I had seen a GoFundMe come down my feed. The first one I ever saw when it first was coming out, it came down my Facebook feed, and it was a friend of mine, and her car had broken down. And she was just asking everybody to give a little bit. And I was like, wow, what a cool idea. Like, I can't fix her car. I don't have thousands of dollars to give her, but I can give $20. And I gave $20, and she was like, thank you so much. And she hit her goal. And I was like, this is such a cool idea. So as we started talking about this idea that's happening, and we thought it's just missing one part here. Helping people fundraise is really important. People need money for when your car breaks down, when you have medical bills, when you're going on a missions trip, when you're adopting, when your pet is ill, so many different things. But it's more than that, because you lose a child in a car accident and you need to raise funds for the funeral expenses. No amount of money is going to reach that place of hurt and brokenness. But we believe as Christians that God can. And we said, what if we were to make a platform that allowed people to fundraise for what's important to them, while sharing hope with them on the other side, that there's hope more than even the money that will be provided. And so that's how Give Send Go was born. Again, it's been 10 years ago. We had no idea though, when we launched Give Send Go, that we would be where we are today, in the scene of standing not only for hope, but for people's freedoms as well.
And I love that. I remember the trucker convoy, and I'm sure all of my audience does too, and why they stood for what they did. and your involvement in that. So, can you, for anybody who didn't hear about that, can you touch a little bit about what that was? I know you mentioned before you have a current running lawsuit still, which is like incredibly ridiculous to me. But can you share a little bit about the trucker convoy and what that was all about and your involvement or your company's involvement with that and why it's such a big deal and why it's still going on today?
Yeah, and if you don't mind, I'm going to back up just even a couple years prior. So we were running Give Send Go. It was growing year after year, doing a good job, sharing hope with people fundraising for things. And then one morning we woke up and we had thousands of emails that had hate. They were like hate mail and death threats and horrifying death wishes on us and crazy. And I'm like, what is going on Give Send Go? We've never seen anything like this before. And so we go to the site and we're looking to see what's happening because everybody's writing in about this young man. His name was Kyle Rittenhouse. You may remember that name.
Oh, yes, yes.
So Kyle Rittenhouse had been deplatformed. He had found himself in a scenario where he had shot a couple people. All these clips were all over social media. People were talking about it. Everybody knew he was just guilty. He was this white supremacist kid. And now he was finding himself in a lot of legal trouble. And everybody had already said he was guilty. And so he had gone to GoFundMe. He had gone to Facebook and PayPal. And he had tried to fundraise for his legal defense. He didn't have money to fight for his defense. And so he finally came to Give Send Go. And he started a campaign. And the minute he did, people found out. And what the mob does is they immediately attack. So they start attacking us, DDoS attacks, trying to take our site down. And they say, you shouldn't allow this kid to fundraise. And my brother Jacob and I looked at each other and said, okay, this is different. This is not something we've seen on our site before, this much hate. Like, is this the direction God wants us to go with Give Send Go? Yeah, we don't want to drag his name through the mud. We want to share hope with people. Here's a kid that half the country does not want us to allow to fundraise. And so we said, let's take a couple days and just pray about it. We sought some counsel. We prayed. We really dug in. God, is this the direction you want us to go? And we felt a strong yes, that God said, no, this is why I created Give Send Go, to give people that are voiceless a voice, even people you may disagree with. And so we allowed Kyle Rittenhouse a place to raise funds for his legal defense. Because in America, for those of you who might be watching, you're supposedly presumed innocent until you get found guilty in a court of law. We're all supposed to get that presumption of innocence. And you should be allowed to afford an attorney of your choice, not just a public defender, if people want to help you give money toward that. And so we were like, it makes sense that he's allowed, even if he's guilty, he should be allowed the presumption of innocence, right? Isn't that what we're founded on? And so we allowed him to raise funds. He raised $600,000. And the next year when he went to trial and it all played out, you know what? He got found not guilty. And there were a lot of people that were like, yay, thanks Give Send Go for standing behind Kyle. And we said, well, actually, we didn't stand behind Kyle. We didn't know if he was innocent or guilty. We stood behind the presumption of innocence, and we're going to do that for everybody. And so that kind of threw us into this national spotlight of who's this crowdfunding platform that won't shut things down when GoFundMe says you're supposed to. And so fast forward, you have the January 6th riots, and you have some people standing up against CRT, and you have the pandemic going on, and all these things are coming that would have been silenced. And people were allowed to come on Give Send Go and raise funds for it, whether we agreed or disagreed. And so fast forward a couple of years, and here's a cool story, and I'll tell it pretty quickly because I know I've been talking for a bit. But a cool story, like a month before the truckers, New Year, we didn't know the truckers were coming. We just were doing business, and our bookkeeper said, hey, you should buy this cybersecurity policy. It's cheap, $1,500 or something, and just in case you ever get like hacked or whatever. Okay, we'll do it. Fast forward a month, we're now being hacked because we're allowing the truckers, they raise over $10 million in a week on Give Send Go after GoFundMe had shut them down. My brother and I had to go speak in front of Parliament about why we allowed this campaign. And then we got hacked. And the hacker group Anonymous said that they were hacking us and they took credit for it. And we shut the site down and had to figure out how someone got in and up our security and all of that sort of thing. And it was a stressful time, but we were like, oh my gosh, we had this cybersecurity policy. This is crazy. Like that a month before we got it, and now we got hacked. God knew that we were going to get hacked, and he had us get this policy before we even knew we needed it. And then you fast forward about 8 or 9 months later, and we get a call from, email from the Canadian government saying, or a lawyer up there that says, hey, we're suing you. The citizens of Ottawa are suing you for allowing people to raise funds on your platform. And so we were going to just ignore it. We're like, that's Canada, right? Like they'll have to come across the lines if and after they figure it out up there. And so we were just going to ignore it. My brother was like, let me just pray about this for a bit, because we were coming up on the date that either we were going to default on and just have to go with whatever the court decides, or we had to file a defense. We were going to just default is what we thought, because we kept feeling the battle belonged to the Lord. And so my brother goes away, prays for like 2 days, comes back, and he's like, listen, I feel like all I kept seeing is David and Goliath, where David, even though the battle belonged to the Lord, David picked up a stone and he swung it and he fought. And he's like, I feel like we're supposed to fight this. And so I'm like, okay. So we call this lawyer that had been wanting to defend us. And we said, okay, what's it going to cost us? And he's like, we haven't budgeted for this. We're now hiring a lot of people. Our business structure has changed some with all the growth. And he said, minimum 250 over the next few months, year, whatever. And we're like, oh man, that's not in the budget. But you know what? The battle belongs to the Lord. Well, we hang up the phone, and literally a couple hours later, we didn't call, they called us, which is also unheard of. The insurance company calls us and says, hey, we have a settlement check for you for $260,000. The same day that we were told, hey, this is how much it's going to cost, $250,000, God came through. He knew in advance, I'm going to provide for you. You can go into this battle, because yes, you're going to fight, but the battle does belong to me, so you don't have to worry. Again, don't be anxious about anything, but present your requests to God and he will give you a peace. So sorry for that long story, but a cool story.
No, that's an awesome story. I have like chills all up and down my arms from that. Oh my gosh, what an amazing testament from your experience. Again, God's timing, his plans are so much greater than your own. Jeremiah 29:11, which is my Nana's verse to all of us all the time. And she's watching right now, or she will watch the replay. But I love that story. I wasn't aware that you guys were associated with Kyle Rittenhouse before, but that's so cool. I remember watching his trial. I remember watching the verdict and like just tears whenever he just like collapsed and his like knees went weak whenever they found him not guilty, because he was not guilty. But that's another day, another story. So I don't know if we touch on this or not. You went from being a mom to starting a business. I think you guys, or you and your siblings, discussed that. But the mission of Give, Send, Go. Obviously, you want everybody to be heard, everybody to have the opportunity to raise money whenever they need to. And this is something that is near and dear to my heart. My husband was in the hospital for 4.5, maybe 5 months total in 1 year. He had to have heart surgeries. We were both out of work. I was his primary care provider, the person who had to be at the hospital for all this time. I did not know about Give, Send, Go at the time, but we had so many donations and so much love and support from our community of friends and extended family through, again, another crowdfunding site that took a lot of donations that, people gave, and that's so disheartening. But you guys do not do that. Is that correct?
Yeah. So when we first started, the traditional model for crowdfunding was that there is always, when you online, and it's always going to be, I don't see how it will ever not be, but there's a payment processor, and they take a little piece, usually 2.9% plus 30 cents. And that just goes to the payment processor. That's how they make money. So if you go swipe a credit card or pay online, there's that processing fee, whether you pay it or the company pays it. Someone's paying that processor for allowing you to process payments online. That's just not going to us or GoFundMe or whoever. And then what it used to be is that there would be a platform fee. So Fundly or GoFundMe, one of these would have a 5%, 6%, 10% platform fee that would come out of the person who's raising funds. So you raise $100, 10% would go to the platform for allowing you to use their service. And then 2.9 plus 30 cents would go to the payment processor. When we first started, we said, let's come in a little bit lower than everybody. Let's just do 4%. 4.5%, then we can be cheaper than the other platforms out there. We started that for about 2 months, and then we thought, you know what? No, what we're going to do is we really believe this is something that a God idea. And we think that it's kind of silly to be taking money from the people who actually need the money, the fundraisers. What if we were to allow the people who are giving to give a separate donation to us, only if they wanted to? We'll just operate on optional donations from the giver. The giver's the one with the money. If they have a little extra, maybe they want to give us $1 or $2 or $5. And so we changed our system to be that I'd go give you $100 and you would get all of it except the payment processing, the 2.9 plus 30 cents. And then if people wanted to give us extra, it wouldn't come out of your money. They could just give us $1 on the side that would come to GiveSendGo to help keep us free so that we didn't have to charge you, the campaign owner, a platform fee. And then just recently, 2 years ago, we lowered our payment processor fee. We negotiated it down, and now we offer 2.7%, which is cheaper than the other platforms. So even if you don't like our hope stance or our freedom stance, hey, you're fundraising, we're cheaper than the other guys.
Still so amazing and so generous. I know, there really are people that sometimes truthfully depend on these crowdfunding websites to pay their rent whenever they can't, to pay this or that. And it's so generous of you guys to do that. I know, you guys, it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot. And for, again, you guys to just negotiate on something more affordable for everybody that's really saying something about you guys. And I really, really love, that's where you guys go. So as a co-founder with your siblings, out of 12, you said 12, right?
Yes.
So my dad also has a huge family. He has 5 sisters and 3 brothers. It's
Wow.
so fun. I have cousins I've not even met, but that's not why we're what we're talking about. But what have been some of your very favorite fundraisers on GiveSendGo, if you have any?
That's a really hard one because we have hundreds of thousands of campaigns that have been started on GiveSendGo. Some of the dearest to me are people that I actually know that have raised funds for needs in their lives and watching it work. One of the cool things, I'm going to shift just a little bit, but I'll tie in a campaign with it, is we have this team called the Hope Team at GiveSendGo. So our mission statement is to share the hope of Jesus through crowdfunding. And so we really wanted to figure out how to share hope with people. It's nice to say, but how do you actually do it? So we hired a team of people, just like our marketing team. We have a hope team, and our hope team calls and prays for each campaign that gets started on GiveSendGo. And so these are the people that get actually on the phone with somebody and say, hey, I see you have this campaign, that this happened. Can I pray with you? And people are blown away that a big tech platform is calling them to pray with them over whatever. And even atheists are like, I don't even believe in God, but I can't believe that you call and care about what I'm raising funds for. Well, one night, our prayer team was calling, our hope team was calling, and one of our hope team members calls this lady, and her campaign, they read the campaign first so they know what they're going to be praying about. So she reads this campaign. It's sad, which a lot of campaigns are on GiveSendGo. She reads this campaign, and it's a woman whose grown daughter committed suicide after giving birth from postpartum depression and left behind the baby. So now the mom, the grandma of the baby, is left with this baby. And it's a devastating situation. She's overwhelmed. She's lost her daughter. It's really sad. And our Hope team calls and prays and says, "Hi, I'm from the Hope team, and I just read your campaign. I am so sorry about the loss of your daughter. How can I be praying for you right now?" And the lady just bursts into tears. And she goes, "You don't even understand. I just pulled out my gun and I was going to end my life tonight." And God had us call, like we just call through the list, right? But God had us call in that moment. Now, this isn't a favorite campaign because I love that she lost her daughter, but it's a favorite campaign because it reminds me that what we do is more than allow people to fundraise for money, that we actually step into people's situations, and we hear it over and over and over again. We step into people's situations and say, "You're not alone here. There's a God who loves you, who cares about your situation, and you're valuable. Even if we disagree with you, you're valuable." And so that is why I know it's not exactly, I could say, "Hey, this adoption was a great campaign," or the Kyle Rittenhauser truckers, I could give you campaigns, but the thing I love about that story is that we were able to step in, and it reminds us every day as we get calls of people going, I'm sitting in the hospital while my daughter's having surgery, and you're calling me right at the right time. And, Danica, I see you said, we saved her life. And it really was we call it a God moment. A God call is actually what the Hope team calls it. And we're putting a book together of God calls, so people can hear these stories, because God saved her life. God is using us, and he can use each one of us, Danica, you as well, to speak life into people that are feeling so hopeless around us. We are a big tech company that fundraises, and yet we get to share hope. And if we can do it as a big tech fundraising platform, you can do it as a plumber or as a teacher or as a whatever you do in your life.
I don't even know what to say or how to respond. I'm over here like trying not to just burst into tears. That's such an amazing story. Oh my gosh. Like if that's not God using, like you just said, using you guys as a vessel to reach out to, I can't, the people in need. I'm fine. Oh my gosh. You guys are so amazing. Your company is so amazing. Heather, you're so amazing. Uh, you know, why people should use Gifts and Go over other crowdfunding platforms should be obvious,
Yes.
39 minutes into this interview. But could no. It should just be obvious. You guys should just use Gifts and Go. Please, Gifts and Go over.
That's 3 words. I know often when I say it, people aren't exactly sure what I'm saying because they kind of blend in. So it's 3 words. It's give, send, and go. And we say we have our givers that give to campaigns. We have our goers, the ones raising the funds, and our senders are the ones that send prayers. We have actually, when you go to a campaign on Give, Send, Go, there's a give button. So you can give to somebody, obviously, we're a crowdfunding site. And then there's a share button. So you can share on social media. Obviously, you need to share your campaign in order for people to know about it. But what we have that the other platforms don't have is we have a pray button. And you can go on campaigns on Give, Send, Go. And maybe you don't have money this month because we all know when eggs cost $8, things are a little tight. But you can go and you can say, I'm going to just send you a prayer and let you know that I'm praying for you and your campaign. And you could actually, I ask you guys to go to givesendgo.com and scroll through campaigns and send prayer messages. We have a prayer wall where people that don't have campaigns can list their prayer requests, and people come on our site just to ask for prayer. And you can go to our prayer wall and you can list your prayers. You can ask for a call from our Hope team, and our Hope team will call you to pray over your needs. Use Give, Send, Go, number 1, because we're going to share hope with people, and the other platform censor. Don't use them. It's like tipping your executionist, right? Like when you use a platform that is against everything you're for, you're letting them use their money to support things. that you're against. Give, Send, Go does not do that. We believe in life, we believe in hope, and we believe in freedom. And so use Give, Send, Go because we're not going to censor you. Use Give, Send, Go because we're cheaper than the other platforms. Use Give, Send, Go because we have a pray wall and a pray button and a hope team. Use Give, Send, Go because we are in 80 countries around the world. Use Give, Send, Go because our customer service are real people that actually speak English. They will write back to you within 15 minutes or so with a real response to help you with if you have an issue. And so there are so many reasons I could go on and on. Obviously, I love Give, Send, Go, but you should, if you ever see a friend or hear a friend say, I need to start a GoFundMe, or I need to start say, no, don't do it. Start a Give, Send, Go. So that's my little pitch on why you should use Give, Send, Go.
My gosh, this has been such an incredible interview. We have a few moments left, and I'm so grateful for your time. I didn't know that I was going to cry during this interview, or I would have brought tissues. So that's my bad. I love that you guys are so stamped in standing up for people and what they believe in. So, what advice do you have to share for people who are wanting to stand up or wanting to use their voice to be loud, to go against, mainstream media or the popular belief that is being pushed on us from all sides, whether religiously, politically, personally? What is your advice for people who want to stand up but are too afraid?
I can tell you that this was a really hard spot for me to step into. When Kyle came on our site and then we got all this hate mail and I had to change my phone number because people are writing to me and calling me in the middle of the night, and my children, and telling my children to kill themselves because they have a white supremacist hate mother or whatever they called me. It was really hard because I want people to like me. And I think that's a lot of us. We want to blend in. We want people to like us. And when you stand up for something, there are going to be people who don't like you. It's just the fact.
Yep.
And so that was the hardest thing for me, to actually grow a backbone, to actually figure out what I believe and why. And once I did, it was very easy to stand firm. When you're wishy-washy, when you don't surround yourself with people that are solid and speaking truth, you're going to feel wishy-washy and unsolid and confused. The world wants to tell us that there's no solid truth in this world and everything's just can be juggled. And it's not true. There's a man named Jesus, and he said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. There is a truth, and it's Jesus. And so Jesus is that truth. And if you know him, he will give you the courage. You read the Bible. Every single person that did something amazing from God was not brave to begin with. They were put in a situation where they had to trust in God. And because God had proven his faithfulness over and over again, they were able to step out. And that's the same thing that happened with me. God has proven his faithfulness over and over again in my life. And so now when I get put in a spot where it feels overwhelming or too big for me, I actually get a little excited because I know God's going to do a miracle because he's in control. There's a song, I'll close with this, and it says, he goes before I know that he's even gone to win the war. And he comes back with the head of my enemy and he calls it my victory. And it's a weird song. I always like, and most people don't even know. I'm trying to think of what if you look up those lyrics, you'll probably know the song. But he goes before us. He wins the war and he calls it our victory if we just stand firm. And I love what John said, wear the armor. You need to put on the armor of God. I think that is what it takes. We're looping back around to the beginning of this, where spend time with the Lord. Everybody needs to be brave because our culture needs it. We have good news and we should be sharing.
Absolutely. Again, we're going to wrap this up really quickly. One more question though. Where can people learn more about Give, Send, Go? How can they start campaigns? Again, you mentioned the prayer wall, but for those that are just tuning in or that are watching the replay, can you go over that quickly one more time?
Sure. I know I'm a talker. This is the problem. GiveSendGo.com is our platform. it takes minutes to make a campaign, and we just are getting ready in the next week, I think, week or two, should be adding AI to our site so that you can actually go in and say, help me make my campaign, and it will help you write your story, which is going to be great for a lot of people who are like, I don't know what to write. But you can go to givesendgo.com, and you can contact us there. You can join our Giver Army. We have a cool army. I don't have time to talk about it. We have our prayer wall. You can start a campaign. You can give to campaigns. We have people that go on and just give to campaigns. We have this one guy, he goes on anonymously, and many times a month he'll give a $50 or $100 donation, and he writes in the comment, I owe Jesus a favor. This is from him. And it's so cool to watch givers come on and support each other. So givesendgo.com. You can follow us on all social media, every platform imaginable, just the @ and then give, send, go, all one word. Thank you so much for having me, Courtney.
Heather, you are amazing. The mission of Give, Send, Go is so amazing. I absolutely love that this has turned into a Christ-centered conversation podcast. Something that I like to ask my guests if they are comfortable with, to end the show in prayer. So if you would, could you end the show in prayer, end our conversation in prayer?
I would love that. Dear Heavenly Father, I just want to thank you so much for your love for each one of us. God, I thank you for platforms like this where we can go and we can share publicly what you've done in our lives, our story that you are writing for us, to encourage, to put courage into other people, to also live that story that you have for them. God, I just pray for everybody listening today that you will just impart courage into them to stand up, to share the good news with those around them. God, I just thank you for the opportunity you give each one of us. You give us such an opportunity to be your spokespeople, God. And I just pray that you continue to use us, continue to help us be brave in a culture that is confused and hurt and broken. We know you're a God who rescues the broken, heals the hurt, and unconfounds the confused, God. And so we thank you. Use us, God. We ask you to use us to impact culture for you. We love you, Jesus, and we thank you so much for choosing to use people like us. In your name we pray. Amen.
Thank you so much for your time, for your story, for your background, for what you're doing and your team is doing. God bless you. You guys are doing literally his work, and that shows through the stories, through your army, through your prayer wall. I would love to connect again to go in more depth about that prayer wall, about all the things. And I wish that we could extend this longer, but I have another show in 9 minutes. So I'm going to cut this off right now. You guys, thank you so much for tuning in. If you're watching the replay, let us know. Please go to givesendgo.com, givesendgo.com. They are an amazing Christian-based company that just want to help people. Heather, thank you so much for your time. You guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Again, leave your comments down below. Let me know if you're watching the replay. Share this with your friends. It'll be live on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Prime Podcasts, whatever. All of the things. I hope that you learned something and took away from this. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. God bless you. God bless this country. And together we're Patriot Strong. Bye, guys.